Hey everybody, this is Randy Schwantz. I'm here today with Matt Dewey. Matt's with Oliver Soden up there somewhere in New Jersey country. So hey, say hi, Matt.
Hey, Randy, how you doing?
So I'm good, man. So where in New Jersey are you?
I'm well, we have three offices in New Jersey. Actually, we just took a third one, but my office is out in Shrewsbury, New Jersey. It's right in the middle, kind of near the shore. We have an
Yeah.
office in Jamesburg, and then we just got another office down in Manasquan, which is also on the shore. So
Yeah. Why does everybody say they're near the shore if you live in Jersey? Because it sounds cool. That's why.
right,
We'll
right,
move on
right.
from that. So, and then I also know you have a family. You've got a couple of sons. Tell me about your family just a little bit, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a couple sons, a couple daughters too. A 21, 19-year-old sons, and a 15 and about to be 10-year-old daughters at home. So they obviously keep me motivated. So.
Yeah. Well, then you're quite aware you're going to have to make a lot of money, save a lot of money, pay for colleges, cars, university weddings, and then fund your own retirement. Sweet. So it's my understanding that you were with Allstate for maybe a decade or something like that. Am I right?
Yeah, it was more like 12 years, but yeah, it was about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then kind of what caused you to want to think about moving on and get into the commercial business? Because you were primarily personal lines over there.
Yeah. They would at Allstate, they would show you, hey, like write commercial, look at these bigger premiums. And they were slightly bigger, but they weren't, anything big, but I was trying to get into the bigger premiums. This is very hard to write with them, extremely hard. Like even the things that they said that they wanted, the restrictions were so tight that, that you couldn't write, you had to go elsewhere. So it was hard to compete. And they didn't really, allow you to go after the bigger stuff that I'm going after now. So I
Yeah.
started looking elsewhere.
And most people, when they get in that kind of prison, they stay there. So what motivated you to get out of that prison and move on to something bigger and better like what you're doing now?
The gentleman that I started with, he was about to sell his agency, and it didn't think that I had been thinking about buying it when he did it, and I realized I'm like if I'm having trouble as a producer doing the things that I want to do there, like I don't think how being an exclusive agent is going to be much better. I started looking elsewhere for agencies that did commercial lines. That's when I found the Soden Agency. I'm so glad that I did.
And so what was it easy to get in Soden?
No, not at all. It was probably the hardest job that I've ever gotten into. But I don't know where I learned this, but somebody told me it's like, something that's worth doing is never going to be easy. So I kind of recognize that from the start. It's like if they're, making it hard to get hired, then it's probably worth it. And that's what it wanted me. I wanted to do that more, and that's what I did.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Then they're at least they're doing what I'm coaching them to do, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So you started October about a year ago. So this is February of 2021, and then you went through some of the typical carrier training, all that sort of stuff, and then you came to the wedge, basically January of 2020. Is that right?
I mean, I was, go back to the hiring. Actually, after my first interview, to get a second interview, I had to read your wedge book. I had to read the whole thing and give a synopsis on it. That day, I went home and I was like, just planning on starting it. I read the whole thing that night and put the synopsis together like the next morning and sent it in. I was excited. So and by the time I had actually gotten hired from reading that, I had read all of your books except for maybe one. And that one was on the way. But the first real, in live training was in January with you. That was awesome, by the way. That was great. So
awesome. And so then the thing that got me fired up about wanting to talk to you is that, and here's why I'm doing this. There's a lot of people wonder, can a newbie, and you're a newbie in the commercial business, can a newbie come out and start winning by BOR early in the game? So what's your opinion about that?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how early in the game because I don't really have, comparison, but I'll certainly take your word for it. But I mean, it's been maybe 15 months that I've been working at the Soden Agency, and I took over two very nice accounts. They seem to be, proud at the agency, and I think I could do a lot more this year, and I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, it took a lot of hard work. But
so don't be so humble. So if I understand you right, I think you took over one that was about 24,000 in revenue, another one about 40,000 in revenue. Is that? Yeah. So here's why I do this. Like when you hear of somebody else being successful, how do you feel?
It makes me feel good that maybe, that if because they could do it, that I could do it. That's, so I like to see other people successful too, because it means that I have a shot at that. That's the way I look at it. So
bingo. So the reason I want to try to get this out and just kind of work through the humility piece and just call it what it is like, you got a guy that was at Allstate for 12 years. He comes into the commercial business, doesn't know much. In the first year, writes a $40,000 revenue account, $24,000 revenue account. I think you said a $10,000 revenue account. All three of those by BOR, correct?
Yeah.
So, as well as some other stuff, and man, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, they all pretty much happened around the same time. So the beginning of the year was kind of rough, but I worked through it. I kept my philosophy, and I learned it from watching just the daily activity. Keep that up, and that it'll eventually pay off. And I just kept my head down and working, and eventually it did. Something clicked probably around like August or September of last year, and it's been getting a little bit easier to get the people on the phone and get the things that I want since then. So it's been a great help, but there's no way that I'm doing that without your help at all. There's just no way.
Well, so and there's no way you're doing it without your hard effort and work. And what's interesting about that is that all that stuff happened, COVID hit in February and took a deep dive, and everybody just went into shock and didn't come out of shock until June or July. And then so to have made that effort and written most of those accounts, say in August, September, October, it's a pretty amazing feat for 2020, because most people look at 2020 and go, oh God, I hope it never happens again. You might be thinking, I'd love to repeat 2020. It's an awesome deal.
I kind of feel guilty sometimes when I hear those things, and I try to, hold those back, but it's definitely been one of the best years of my life. I mean, other than the times my kids were born, this is definitely the best career year of my life, no doubt. But I do feel kind of guilty saying that. Others have had some bad news, but it's always been something where I always think bad things happen, but it's always an opportunity. So I've had several bad things happen to me over my life, but it ends up being a good thing in the long run because it showed me the right direction. So I kind of knew when this was happening, I was like, I'm going to try to figure out what that idea is beforehand, and go in with the understanding that at the end, I'm going to be okay if I just keep my head down, kind of thing. So
yeah. And so now let's talk about the BORs just a little bit. A lot of people wonder, is it even right to do? Is it fair to do? And then they're also wondering, how do they do it? So what would you say were the essential elements that enabled you to end up with BORs? Can you talk about that at all?
Yeah, well, as far as right to do, I think it would have been wrong for me to not take it, because he was, at least one of them that I'm thinking about right now, was, money was leaking out all over the place. And, there's things that I've done in we've done as an agency in the last 5 or 6 months that have put him in a better position for this renewal. You never really can tell what would happen if it didn't go the other way, but I have indications from those carriers that his renewal wouldn't be anywhere near what it would have been had we not created the situation for him. So, that's the way that I look at it, is that he was getting dramatically underserved, and not taking it would have been the immoral thing, if I put that correctly. But
yeah, you did. That's good. Yeah.
So, and then as far as to get them, it's definitely one of your ideas that helped me. It was the analogies. You had the black Suburban analogy. You have another one that I can't remember at this time, but
maybe the horse and jockey story.
Yes,
maybe.
Exactly. So I needed to, what I figured out is to create those analogies towards their type of business. So the guy was a plumber. I created an analogy around that, that he immediately recognized, and it was easy. And it was, that's around the time that it started to click, was that I figured out, I'm like, all the stuff that I know about this, all you got to do is make the right analogies and make that click in their head, create the right pictures. And that's the important part. And that's what I started doing. So it was definitely, it's definitely possible, going in, knowing nothing. Like I said, when I started, I knew next to nothing about commercial. I mean, I thought I did, but compared to what I learned over the last year, I might as well have been a guy on the street compared to, what I know now. So,
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
good for you.
This helps.
Well, man, I really appreciate you being on with us today, and best luck to you and your family and the Soden Agency, and continued success to you, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll keep up, keep up working with you. And I definitely appreciate everything you guys have done for me. So thank you very much.